Sleepless in Seattle, Jurassic Park, the Kia Sportage. What do these things have in common? They're all now 30 years old. Obviously, this particular vehicle isn't 30 years old and this design isn't. The new Sportage is very much up to date. This car is the 30th anniversary edition. So it gets this lovely wolf grey paintwork, you've got black wheels, and inside, which I'll show you in a minute, you've got special upholstery as well. As before, the Sportage is available as diesel, regular hybrid, and this plug-in hybrid, and we'll go into a bit more detail on that when we're driving it. Not that the Sportage needs much of an introduction. It's a very, very popular car in Ireland and throughout Europe. It goes up against the likes of the Hyundai Tucson, Nissan Qashqai, and lots of other C-segment SUVs. They are all very, very popular right now. This generation of Sportage took a big step forward when it comes to interior, ambience and technology. This car has loads of technology, loads of equipment as standard, and it's all very easy to use, and that's a key thing. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of interest. There's plenty to look at here. Obviously, the dashboard is dominated by this double screen setup. It's all enclosed neatly behind one enclosure, and there's a big touchscreen in the middle here and digital instruments in front of you. The appearance of those change a little bit depending on your mode you're in and depending on what information you want to see. But overall, it's sharp, looks good, and as I said, it's very easy to use. Below the touchscreen is a feature I find really slick. It's something that Kia showed us originally on the EV6 electric car. And as in that car, you just have to press once here to toggle between the climate control and other items like the navigation, the infotainment. It sounds complicated, but it's actually really easy to use, and you don't have to take your eyes off the road for more than a split second to transfer between the two. When you do, you then can change the temperature, change the fan speed quite easily. It's better than most systems that now have got climate control on the actual touchscreen. It's far better than that, and yet it still looks very, very modern. Centre console itself has plenty of storage. At the front, you've got this nice deep section where any smartphone will fit into. There's various different charging options there. I see a 12-volt port, USB-A and USB-C, and a wireless charging pad can be fitted to that as well. So behind that, you've got buttons for heated seats, heated steering wheel, and this car has heated seats in the back as well, which my kids love playing with. And then you have rotary controller for the drive, so it's very, very easy. Press the brake, twist to the right to drive, twist to the left to reverse, press the button in the middle to park. Simple. Engine start, stop button in front of that. Behind, there's a smaller rotary control, and that's for the different drive modes. And as this is the all-wheel drive version, it also has a terrain select. I'll mention a bit more about that when I'm out driving. Besides that, cup holders, all important of course. This has got two fairly chunky, usefully sized cup holders just here. But what I really like is that you can put them in. So push and push, and then you open up a big section here. So if you have a lot more storage, if you don't want cups in there, you can hold a lot of other bigger items in there. As ever, there's a useful under elbow storage cubby as well. Continuing with practicality, the door pockets are a little bit slender, unfortunately. You can add a squeeze push in bottles, but they're not huge. The glove box itself is of a decent size. One thing you know straight away, of course, getting into this car, and it makes it incomparable of the Sportage 30 years ago, is the quality. The materials used are all very, very solid. There's a nice tactility as well to all of the controls. And that's where Kia has moved on leaps and bounds in 30 years. Of course, in this 30th anniversary edition, that is enhanced even further by the special upholstery. And the seats are really quite lovely. There's got this suede effect at the top and then a synthetic leather for the bottom, so it's a bit more hard wearing. And they're very, very comfortable over a long journey. Helping with that comfort, of course, is the adjustability of the driving position. This car has electric seats, so slide back and forth, up and down as you wish, and there's endless adjustment there. Steering wheel itself moves in and out, of course, and up and down. Good range of adjustment, very easy to get comfortable. Getting into the back, you can see why buyers are choosing this car for a family. There's plenty of room here, and a big wide opening in the doors, and doors open wide as well. When you're in, you could fit 3 adults across here if you needed to. Obviously, like all cars this size, is more comfortable with just 2. But as you can see, me sitting behind my own driving position here, plenty of room for my knees. I can put my feet in under the seat, and absolutely loads of headroom. There's plenty of shoulder room too. It's generally quite comfortable. In terms of practicalities, there's lots of bits and pieces in the back as well. You get these extra little hooks on the top of the seats, smaller hooks lower down, a bit of storage here, some storage nets, and some air vents. Air vents in the back are much underappreciated, and they're really, really good for anybody travelling in the back, obviously. Don't forget, it's got USB-C ports on the sides of the seats here, and not many manufacturers do that, and that's really useful for those in the back that want to charge up their devices. If you're only seating 2 people back here, pull down the centre armrest, it makes it a bit more comfortable, and of course you've got 2 cup holders there as well. For those using Isofix child seats, there are mounting points in the outer two seats, as you'd expect. And because there's decent legroom here, there's a good bit of space here if you have a rear mounted seat in particular. Admittedly, the plug-in hybrid model does compromise a little on boot space, but it still has 540 litres in there, and that's quite large. The regular models, the diesel and the hybrid, they accommodate 590 litres, so this is a big boot. Even 540, that's a lot by any measure. Okay, there isn't much storage underneath the floor here, but as you can see, it's a nice, easy to access space. There's a decent luggage cover. There's a 12-volt power socket on the side here. There are also latching hooks, very solid metal latching hooks in the side too. And neat little feature, to fold down those seats, you tug the little panel on the side here. It's very easy. And that's the whole thing, completely flat. Under the bonnet of the plug-in hybrid model is a conventional 1.6 litre petrol engine. That's mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission, and there's a pretty powerful electric motor on the back. In total, when they're all working together, you get up to 265 horsepower, which is considerable, and this car has plenty of performance. It's no high performance hot hatch or anything, but it is pretty quick. Of course, it also means you get all-wheel drive if the engine and electric motor are working together, and that's perhaps one of the biggest advantages of going for this model. To date, I've done nearly 1,000 kilometers in this particular car, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance, or I didn't have the possibility or the option to plug it in and charge up fully after using that initial charge. However, it did show me that you could get well over 50 kilometers on a charge, and the official number is 69 kilometers, and I think if you drove very, very carefully in and around town at low speeds, you'd probably get close to 60 kilometers, so that's very, very usable. Even without charging up, and I did a lot of motorway mileage in this car, it averaged 8 litres per 100 kilometres, and that really isn't bad for the type of driving that I was doing. It shows that for those times when you can't charge it up, you're going to worry that your running costs aren't going to be absolutely crazy. Obviously, the car is at its quietest and smoothest when it's running on electric power, and it's very, very pleasant when it does that, like all plug-in hybrids, like all electric cars, I guess. But the petrol engine isn't too raucous, and when you're cruising, it's almost inaudible, to be honest. Whether you're on the motorway or on these mountain roads like we are today, the Sportage is a genuinely good all-rounder. The chassis is quite smooth, it's quite comfortable, it doesn't excite, it's not an engaging car particularly, but it does everything competently, and I guess that's why it's popular. It appeals to everybody. It is comfortable, it can do long distances, it's not taxing to drive. And that applies to all of the Sportage models, of course. They all share the same core chassis. Now, the other models, as I mentioned briefly, there's diesel, hybrid, and this plug-in hybrid to choose from. There are actually two different diesels. The entry level, which is 115 horsepower, and then a higher spec version, which is 136 horsepower. That has actually got mild hybrid technology, so as well as a bit more performance, it is theoretically a bit more efficient. Both of those are front-wheel drive only, and that's worth remembering, though they have decent towing capacities. In between those and the plug-in hybrid is the regular hybrid model. Again, that's front-wheel drive, but that uses the same 1.6 litre petrol engine as the plug-in hybrid and a smaller electric motor, and you can't plug it in. You don't plug it in to charge up, so it balances the power sources depending on what it thinks is the best. What I will do towards the end of this video is perhaps talk through those different systems and who they best suit. After spending a bit of time in this car, one of the other things you learn to appreciate is the visibility. Okay, it is a little bit higher off the ground than a normal hatchback, so you get a view out the front, but its over-the-shoulder visibility is quite good despite the shape of the back, and it just makes for an easy car to drive, and an easy car to drive over long distances. As I said, overall, it's a car that appeals to a lot of people. I can understand why it's popular. People like driving it. It makes life easy for them. As I mentioned, while driving, there are 3 different powertrains to consider, and actually they suit 3 completely different buyers. Only consider diesel really if you're spending a lot of time on the motorway or doing a lot of cross-country driving. Then you'll get the benefits of its economy. The hybrid, the regular hybrid model, is for somebody who is perhaps not doing those big long distances on a very regular occasion, but maybe a bit more urban driving, slower speeds, and yet they're not quite ready or they cannot plug the car in. That's where the plug-in hybrid comes in. If you have access to a charger, preferably one at home, then that is a real consideration. This potentially goes well over 50, maybe even over 60 kilometers on a full charge. So if you charge it up at home, most people will do the commute and back and never use a drop of petrol. But of course the beauty is that you have the fuel tank if you ever need to do longer distance, and you don't want to be waiting at chargers. there you have the 30th anniversary edition. Whether you snap up one of these before they're all sold out or not, it doesn't matter. It just goes to show why the Sportage is such a popular vehicle. Plug-in hybrid, if it suits your lifestyle, is definitely the one to have. It's got the all-wheel drive, it's got a bit of extra performance, and of course you can drive a lot on electric power. If you're interested in any of the other models, or indeed any of the Sportage's rivals, make sure you pop along to our website. It's CompleteCar.ie, and it's a great resource for researching your next new car.